I come to you having dedicated more than a decade of my life researching and writing about the Olympic Games. Before that, I had the good fortune of representing the U.S. Olympic soccer team in international competition, so I come to you today with the perspective of the athlete worker in mind as well. I lived in Rio de Janeiro in the lead up to the 2016 Games, and I was there for the Olympics as well. I also lived in London and England in the lead up to the 2012 Olympics, and I lived there for the Olympics too. So I have a ground-eye view of the two most recent Summer Games as they approached, in that moment that we're in right now, in fact. When a city decides to host the Olympics, they also decide to import a number of problems that are not disputed by social science research. One of those is overspending. The Olympics bring etch-a-sketch economics, by which the initial price tag gets erased and then multiplied many times, typically at the cost of public money. Another trend is displacement. The working poor and marginalized tend to get displaced to make way for Olympic venues and infrastructure. A third trend we've seen Olympics after Olympics is the militarization of public space. The government uses the opportunity to get all the weapons that they would never be able to get during normal political times, all of the special laws that they would never be able to get during normal political times. And those weapons, those laws, stay on the books in the wake of the Games and become part of everyday policing for everyday people in the Olympic city. A fourth trend is what in the United States we call greenwashing, which means making big, grand environmental promises, but not necessarily following through. So talking the green talk, but not walking the green walk, if you will. A fifth trend is corruption. With all the money that is sloshing through the Olympic system, corruption has become a serious problem. And I say that as somebody who comes from the United States, where we experienced this very directly in the bidding for the Salt Lake City Olympics in 2002. Yesterday, I went to Fukushima. It was one of the most intense experiences of my life, something I will never forget. Being there, it was obvious that the prefecture still needs massive support to make things right. To return to Tokyo afterwards and think about all the money being plunged into the Olympics while people still suffer in Fukushima was mind-blowing for me, and I feel like I'm still processing that experience. In Fukushima, I met amazingly courageous people who are doing the very best they can under extreme circumstances. I met a local official, an elected official, and asked her what she thought of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's comment back in 2013 when he was trying to get the Olympics to come to Tokyo, that everything was under control. She told me, and this is a quote from her, "Things were absolutely not under control, and nothing is over yet. The nuclear radiation is still very high. Only one small section," she said, "was being cleaned. The wider region still includes evacuation zones. There's still radiation in the area." She said, "Meanwhile, we're still having an Olympics." I stand with that brave elected official, and I believe her voice needs to be included in the Olympic conversation. I stand with those who are willing to speak up and challenge the downsides of the Olympic Games. The concerns that they raise are valid, and they're grounded in the recent political history of the Olympics. So as the Olympics approach, I very much look forward to seeing how journalists, including those in this room, are able to widen the aperture of public discussion, to think about those who cannot afford to buy a ticket to the Olympics, but who nevertheless will be affected by the Olympic Games. Serious grievances churn beneath the surface, the shiny, shimmering surface of the Olympics, and they absolutely deserve our collective attention. So I look forward to that conversation with you today, And if I can be any of assistance beyond today, please do let me know. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anne Orchier. As was mentioned, I'm an organizer with NolympicsLA, which is a coalition of over 25 organizations throughout the state of California, primarily based in LA. And just want to say that we're incredibly grateful to be here. Thank you to our host, Hanger No Kai, and thank you to everyone who's also joining us from South Korea and from France, who are also in this room. So I'll be reading a statement on behalf of NolympicsLA. 2 years ago, when NolympicsLA initially formed, one of the things we consistently heard from Olympic boosters and politicians was, LA is not Rio. But one of the things we've always insisted and have traveled several thousand miles with organizers from our coalition to say is that LA is in many ways just like Rio, and that our struggles are deeply connected. From the criminalization of poverty carried out by an increasingly militarized, violent, and overfunded police force to a rapidly deteriorating democracy. In each of our cities, the Olympics don't cause these problems, but they directly exacerbate all of them. And in LA, we have many problems that demand our city's resources and attention, and that should take priority over a bloated spectacle like the Olympics. Problems that threaten to make our city uninhabitable to anyone but the super elite. Last month, we learned that homelessness in the city of LA has risen 16% in the last year, which is a conservative estimate. There are currently at least 60,000 people experiencing homelessness on any given night in Los Angeles. We have one of the biggest economies in the world, and there are 60 billionaires who live in our city, so it's not a question of resources. For example, Casey Wasserman, the chair of LA 2028, recently listed his home for $125 million. That's the most expensive home ever sold in Los Angeles, while an average of 150 people become homeless in LA every single night. The same group who is fighting to bring the Olympics to LA is the same group who fought to bring the Olympics to Rio, and their goal is to intentionally displace entire communities for profit. In LA, we're already seeing this play out 9 years in advance, as entire buildings are being demolished near Olympic venues to satisfy a manufactured hotel shortage. Hotel shortage in scare quotes, it's not real. It's not an accident that these are rent-controlled units, which is the last form of housing that working-class families in LA can afford. Just like it's not an accident that favelas were raised in Rio and public housing is under attack here in Tokyo. They're not bulldozing mansions to build luxury hotels or stadiums. They're going after the most vulnerable. This process is designed to benefit the already wealthy and powerful, and the people being most negatively affected have no input. The Olympic bidding and organizing process is fundamentally anti-democratic, and there is no mandate in LA for hosting the 2028 Summer Games. It's no coincidence that Rio, Pyeongchang, LA, and Tokyo have had zero opportunities to vote. Most people in LA don't even know the Olympics are coming. NolympicsLA conducted our own survey in 2018 because the media in LA has refused to conduct any public polling. We found that 45% of Angelenos were opposed to hosting the 2028 Olympics. 35% believed that bringing the Olympics to LA would worsen their own lives. And a full 51% of respondents were moderately or extremely concerned about the impact of the Olympics on LA's homelessness crisis. A mere 1% of people said they were following the bidding process closely. We think that's by design because the details of the bid are frightening, and it's in LA 2028's best interest for people not to pay attention. One of the things they've been keeping quiet is the National Special Security Event designation of the Olympics, or the NSSE, which mandates the creation of a unified command between federal and local law enforcement. What that means in practice is that the Department of Homeland Security and the various agencies under its umbrella, including ICE and CBP, will have unprecedented access to the LAPD and LA Sheriff's Departments, data, personnel, and other billions of dollars worth of resources. These are the same groups responsible for the thousands of concentration camps at our country's border, which presents a terrifying risk to the hundreds of thousands of undocumented and mixed status families in LA. LA already has the deadliest police force in America, and the Olympics gives them even more power to harass, incarcerate, and murder. We're days away from the 35th anniversary of the 1984 Olympics, which deepened the militarization of the LAPD and provided the groundwork for the injustices leading to the 92 uprising, also known as the 92 riots. We do not want to repeat this ugly, violent history. In reality, not much has changed since 92. These communities are still experiencing the effects of violence and inequity. They haven't been empowered or redeveloped. They've largely been erased, and the Olympics presents an opportunity to complete the project of erasure. We reject this Olympic endgame. The Olympics always sell the promise of a clean, peaceful urban future. We, on the other hand, organize in the present around people's lived realities and concerns and needs. Our goal isn't just to push the Olympics out of LA, or even out of every city. We want to challenge and ultimately destroy the systems and global networks of power that are the true drivers behind the Olympic movement, which is designed to protect the status quo and is therefore no movement at all. We are building power today among the people who have been denied input and autonomy over their own lives and communities. In the same way that NolympicsLA has been a collective effort of dozens of local organizations, we've traveled here today to help grow this coalition internationally. Thank you.